Guys, Ubisoft actually made a good game. Also, I really wanted to put that clip in there. Rest in peace, you glorious legend. You'll be sorely missed. So, I've been playing quite a bit of Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced, the remake of the original Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, which came out in 2013. And honestly, there is a lot to talk about. The idea is go over everything, what the game has to offer, what do you get when you pay $60 for it, what has been removed, and a few, I don't know if I want to call them controversies, but some inspired decisions, because we can have nice things. And Ubisoft is going to Ubisoft. But we'll talk about that later. One of the worst kept secrets in gaming finally released a couple of days ago, and it seems to be a massive success. Honestly, I'm surprised even Ubisoft changed their tune. Now they're actually reporting copies sold. Wouldn't you look at that? So I'm guessing that everyone at Ubisoft is, it's pretty happy with this. Oh, I guess not everyone. Anyway, let's go over the game. We're going to start with the most noticeable change, the graphics. The whole game has been remade in the newest iteration of the Anvil engine, the same one that used for Assassin's Creed Shadows. And independently of your thoughts about that game, I know I think it's pretty bad, but you can't deny that it looks very good. And the remake is no exception. Honestly, it's one of the prettiest games that you can play right now. It's one of those games where you are just walking around, and unless you're in combat or like in a specific quest, I'm just find myself looking around, looking at the ocean, the sunset, the trees, the buildings. It's just a joy to walk around and take in the sights. So yeah, the game looks very, very good. Now it comes with all the new bells and whistles, ray tracing reflections, DLSS, even frame generation, all the things. As a bit of a side note, if your system can afford it, if you can afford it in terms of performance, I would strongly recommend you turn on ray tracing. Even if you have to lower the graphics a little bit, but I don't know if you noticed, but there is a lot of water in this game. And honestly, ray tracing does a fantastic job. The reflections in the puddles on the street of towns or in any location, the reflection in the water, like small ponds to the big vast ocean, I would strongly recommend. If you can afford it, please turn on ray tracing. It's one of those games where it actually makes a difference, at least in my opinion. One thing you will notice with this game, and I'm honestly surprised because I don't know, in the original it wasn't so noticeable, but it is a very colorful game. The game is full with very deep, vibrant colors, from the trees to the deep blue of the ocean to the turquoise water when it gets closer to the shore, the colors of the ship, the sails, in the towns, the paint on the houses. It is a very colorful game. Also, performance, I would say, is pretty decent. I watched a video by Hardware Unboxed. They did like a shit ton of GPUs tested for the PC version. I'm going to link it in the description. And to my surprise, it plays particularly well with AMD GPUs. In fact, older AMD GPUs can even surpass superior NVIDIA GPUs. It's crazy. Now, all the footage that you will be seeing from the gameplay is at max settings plus full ray tracing. For reference, I have a Ryzen 9700X, a 5070 Ti, and 32 gigs of RAM. And even at those settings, there are very few points where you would notice it's going below 60. Very, very few. But for the most of the game, it's running between maybe 57 to 60 something. The point is, I don't notice it, so to me, it's smooth enough, even while recording. So I'm actually surprised. I was expecting it to run... It's on 1440p, by the way. I was kind of expecting to struggle a little bit. Alright, in terms of the combat, as you know, the combat has been changed from the original. I'm gonna be honest, the original's combat was good enough for the game. The combat was like one of the weaker points, same as in The Witcher 3. That's not to say that the combat is bad, it was good enough. It's not the most engaging or involved combat system. Now, the combat has been changed a little bit, but it is actually pretty funny. I would say overall it's an improvement because it gives you more tools, more ways to handle combat, but if you want, you can play it exactly like it was in the original. You just stand there, wait for enemies to attack, and depending what attack they do, you either parry and counter or you dodge and counter. Period. And honestly, the longer you play, unless you're actively trying to do some flashy things, you're just gonna devolve into, okay, parry, 1 takedown, 2, 3 takedowns, depending on which swords you have equipped. And honestly, after 20 hours, I've already devolved into that. Unless I can catch enemies off guard and I just hit them from the back, like when you're boarding ships. It's like, wait for the hit, counter, and kill. Rinse and repeat. Like I said, I think it's better than the original, but it's nothing to write home about. It's good enough. Now, what is the focus of the game in terms of gameplay is the ships. The ship combat in this game is fantastic, and I will maintain it's one of the best pirate games ever made, if not the best. A massive chunk of this game happens on your ship. You will be cruising the waves, going around the map, fighting ships, boarding them, taking the loot, pirating, essentially. Now, while the core gameplay of the ship combat has not been changed, it's been slightly expanded. You have a few more abilities, and you also have new officers that you can recruit through specific missions that will unlock specific abilities for your ship. Also, there is a few other new upgrades that you can do to change the way your weapons behave. You get new attacks. It's a little more involved. It gives you, like in the regular combat, more options to handle fighting. Now, again, a bit of a side note. In terms of difficulty, the regular combat, the third-person combat, is extremely easy. One thing I like, the game does split the difficulty settings, so you can lower the difficulty for whaling and harpooning. The regular combat difficulty, the ship combat difficulty, the stealth. I've been playing everything on normal except the normal combat because the original game was very easy. So I thought, okay, maybe I can put it on hard. It's still very easy. The difference is that you take more damage. So maybe 2-3 hits, you're done. The ship combat, on the other hand, that is not easy. That is not easy, especially until you at least get the new officers because they give you pretty overpowered abilities. But unless you're careful, it's fairly easy to get bogged down in a fight, especially when you move away from the starting areas to the lower end side of the map. You start to find bigger groups of ships, and you attack one, and it's not uncommon to start getting shot from the back from another ship that was close by, and everything can devolve pretty quickly. It's the only way where I found myself like actually dying a couple of times for not being careful about how to engage them. Or maybe I'm just bad at the game. That's also a possibility. But it is a lot more difficult. When you assault the forts, the first time I actually went against the fort, same level, the ship was somewhat improved. It was not the stock one. I did a couple of missions. I upgraded the cannons and a few things. And I still died a couple of times. I'll say they are more difficult than it used to be. I want to say, this is not only my favorite Assassin's Creed game, it's also one of my favorite games of all time. And also, I believe this is the best Assassin's Creed game. I could hear an argument for Assassin's Creed 2, maybe. But in my opinion, Black Flag has always been the best. Why? Well, the whole pirate ship combat, it was very good, so that actually... But to me, what made it so good was the story and the characters. Edward Kenway is a fantastic character. And the development he suffers throughout the game is something that has stood out with me since the first time I played it back in 2013. And he's a very reprehensible character, okay? He doesn't care about killing people or stealing or anything. But the development he suffers throughout the game is one of the stories I've always remembered, how much he changes throughout the game. and it's fantastic. I'm not going to give any spoilers for that. Now, as I mentioned before, you get these new officers. These are completely new, 3 completely new characters with their own quest lines. So they get unlocked progressively throughout the game. In my playthrough, I've only unlocked the ability to recruit 2 of them, which one is Lucy and the other is Padre. You can do their starting quest to unlock them, to recruit them to your ship. They will unlock their abilities, but they have a quest line that goes on beyond that point. Now, in terms of the quality, the Padre questline, if you played it very long ago and you're not really paying attention to every minuscule detail, you will notice it would feel like very part of the game. Even though if you look closely, you will notice that the cutscenes feel different because they are... Remember, the game is remade, but they use all the assets, the modeling and everything, the mocap for the original, and they simply expanded into the new one. But these ones are done completely new, and if you look very closely, you will notice they're a little bit stiffer. Now, for the Lucy questline, that's a bit more annoying. Why? Well, it feels like Edward is a different person. In the main quest, he always is talking back, he's always justifying his actions, he's always like, oh, I'm gonna do this, and he's a very up-forward person. But with Lucy, he seems to be like quiet, and she just speaks all the time, and he's like, yeah, oh yeah. I'm exaggerating, of course, but you get the point. And in that one, you can notice more the difference in the writing. Black Flag has always had fantastic writing, in fact, one of the best of the entire franchise. Now, one thing that this was a lot of talk before release that has been removed from the game is all the modern day sections. A lot of people didn't like it. Personally, I like the storyline. I thought it was interesting. I always like the modern day sections, how they connected, especially in the first Assassin's Creed. And this one, the problem with this one is that it changes quite a bit. You see, spoilers for Assassin's Creed 3, but when something happens to the main guy in the present day, where do you go from there? And Black Flag is where they go from there, and it's very boring. The storyline is interesting, but it had a major problem. They were very poorly placed. Every time you finish a section, you get pulled out of the Animus, and you're forced to walk around, well, essentially Ubisoft headquarters, listening to people talk. They were boring to play, and worst of all, they were taking you out of the action. So a lot of people felt like, oh god, no, not again, I want to keep playing Pirate. And I agree, even though I liked it. I would have liked if they kept them as an optional content, that you could go through them if you wanted. I mean, I get it, you will have to remake the whole thing again. Maybe, I understand why. Besides, it doesn't really... It was always disconnected from what came before, from the previous games' modern-day sections. This was, like, very different. So, I don't mind that it's gone, even though I would have liked that they kept it as an option for simply people that did enjoy it. In replace of those, first you have more scenes, memories with Caroline, which is Edward's wife. Also, you have these rifts. These are completely optional. You find them around the world, where you are like called by the Animus, and the Animus shows you like alternate stories. So what would have happened if Edward kept his promise to his wife and actually returned after 2 years and without becoming a pirate? And it goes over that, what happens, what could have been. Well, first, they're completely optional. You can ignore them. Second, they are at least more entertaining than the old modern day sections because, well, you can move around and you have some parkour puzzles, so you're at least moving around while you're listening to the story, seeing scenes. So it's a way more engaging. But in terms of the storytelling, I find it disconnected and pretty stupid, if I'm perfectly honest. I don't mind that they're there because they're optional, but I would have preferred if they just cut everything Animus and present day related and just keep it as the pirate game, and that's it. You see, without the modern day sections, there is nothing in the game that lets you think that you are in the Animus, you know, in the reliving an old life. Now, in terms of content, there is a ton of content in this game. The game is full of things to do. Yes, they repeat quite a bit, not nearly as much as the newer games. But there is still a lot of things that you're gonna do many, many times over. Remember, this is an old game. In my opinion, this is the one that nails that concept. Open world Ubisoft game. And after that, it just keeps getting expanded and blowing up in Odyssey and especially in Valhalla. However, this game has one massive advantage, and that advantage is the ocean. You see, moving around from place to place, you grab your ship, at least the first time, there is fast travel of course, but you grab your ship, you cross the ocean, and you arrive at your location where you have some busy work. But the moving around is so good. And you might be thinking, what? Listen, one of the best parts of the game is just this. When you're cruising around the ocean, especially with how good it looks now, with the sunrise and the sailors start singing, that's the game right there. It's just engaging. I don't know, I've always found it just fun to move around. And yes, you get distracted and attack a ship from time to time, or you find something interesting on an island. But just cruising around is fun. Just going around in the ship. So that's one of the reasons why I think it actually can get away with more than the other games. Now, one new thing that they added, now you have the ability to dive at any point in the ocean. In the original game, you can only get into the ocean, like dive below the waves, at certain specific points where the wrecks of ships were. You go down, they're still here. You go down, you grab the loot, you need to avoid the sharks that are trying to kill you. Now, I like that it is there, but it's kind of pointless because there isn't really that much new stuff down there. But I appreciate that you can do it. For another thing that actually expands the game, and this is, if you never played the original and you're slightly younger, you're probably going to think that, well, that's stupid. But to me, having played the original and playing this one is a complete game changer in terms of perspective, how the game feels more open. And it's just a stupid change that it doesn't affect the size of the map or anything, but it was something that always kept it like separated. And that is no loading screens for docking. You see, in the original game, if you wanted to land, not in a tiny small islands, but if you wanted to land into any sort of settlement, when you dock, you went through loading screen. You dock the ship, goes into the loading screen, load in, boom. Now you can explore the town. And if you want to leave, you go back in your ship, loading screen, and you're in the outside world. Like I say, the size of the map doesn't change. In fact, you can approach as much as you want. The only difference is that you cannot get down and go into the town. But it put that barrier in between. It felt like different maps instead of one big interconnected world. That is a change that I think is absolutely fantastic in terms of how you perceive the world. It's not bigger, nothing has changed, but at the same time, it feels completely different. Just being able to just, oh, there we go. I dock, I get out of the ship. I don't even dock. I don't even have to dock. I can just park the ship, jump down, and just swim to the shore. And wherever that is in Havana, Kingston, or the smallest island that you can find. That, in my opinion, in my mind, expands the game world a lot. Makes it feel like I can go whatever I want. Also, the loading screens, I remember you would just sprint in the loading screen endlessly until the game finally loads. In here, by the time you can move, that the character loads and you can actually move, you take 2 steps and you're inside of the game. It's actually funny. All right, so the game, I would say, is pretty good. Is it the absolute definitive way to play the game? If you care about the modern day stuff, then, I mean, no, because it doesn't have them. But because it doesn't change anything for the story of Assassin's Creed games moving forward, like in the Ezio trilogy or even with connecting with the first one, you can totally live without it. So, yeah, I would say it's the definitive version of the game. Because what has been added goes from great to, it's fine. The changes and the improvements on the game, the loading screens, the graphics, it just makes it better. Now, did it need a remake? Well, the old Assassin's Creed games, The biggest focus and what was made them so great, why is Assassin's Creed 2 and 4 remembered so fondly? Character, the story and the characters. And that hasn't changed. You can go and experience the original Black Flag, and the best part of that game, and the best parts of that game are the ship combat, specifically the pirate fantasy of it, and the characters and story. And those are pretty much the same. Did it need the remake? Probably not really. I think it would have been, it would have been more impactful for Assassin's Creed 2. Remember, that's a PS2 game comparatively to Assassin's Creed 4, which is a PS3 game. But it's good. It's good and it's fine. Is it worth $60? That is the question. If you've never played the original and you might be interested in a game like this, then yeah, hands down, I would say $60 for a game like this. I think it's a good deal. If you have played it recently, maybe I would wait for a sale. Unless you're really craving to play it again. But if you played it in the last and it's fresh in your memory, you can just wait for a sale. And if you played it like myself, way back in 2013, which I played it a couple of times, but I haven't played in like 10 years, I would say it's worth it. So that's the whole game, or at least your experience within the game. Now, there is a couple of things that need to be mentioned. Ubisoft always has to find a way to make something that should be great less so. There is a couple of caveats for the game. And I'm going to go over them in how big of a deal I think they are. First, the game has the Nouveau on PC. Even though the game runs pretty well, it does have the Nouveau, and that can be a negative impact towards your experience. So you need to keep it in mind if you're playing on PC. So that's not the biggest deal. Second, the game comes with 85 euros worth of microtransactions. Before I tell you my opinion about this, you need to remember the original game also had microtransactions, not as many and not as prominent. That is something to keep in mind. Now, the DLC is a hell of a lot of cosmetics. And honestly, this stupid outfits that Ubisoft seems so keen. You know, these edgy fire or water outfits that feel like taken out from, well, surprisingly, from 2013. These edgy outfits that doesn't fit the game at all. I would strongly recommend do not buy these things. I mean, personally, they look stupid, but I mean, that's more of a preference. The DLC is worth more than the deluxe edition of the game. And you should be thanking your lucky stars that this game is not an RPG like the modern games. Okay? The only stats is your weapons, how much damage your weapons do, and depends on the weapon. That's it. There is no defense, there is no agility, there is no strength. No, there is nothing of that. And trust me, if it was, they would be selling you booster packs so you can gain experience faster. Also, the trinket, the sword, and the pistols that you get from these outfits have unique gameplay perks. Of course, I don't like any outfits or weapons that do have gameplay effects within the game when they are paid with real money. It's kind of pay to win. It's not that much of a problem in a single-player game because there's no one to use it against, but it still sucks. Now, this is not new for Ubisoft. In Assassin's Creed Shadows, some of the best armors you can get in the game were paid microtransactions. And we get the final piece of DLC for this game, which is the return of the fucking map. The most fun of the game is running around and getting it. They put the busy work in, and then they sell you the unlock. In the same that the controversy with Assassin's Creed Odyssey was, they set the difficulty, the experience progression, deliberately slower so you get frustrated and consider buying an experience boost. Now, is this the biggest deal? No, because, again, it's DLC that doesn't change anything within the game, except for the perks of the weapons. But there is no cut content from the game, paid DLC that includes new stories or anything. No, the whole experience, as Ubisoft pointed out in a very tone-deaf, they did mention it. The whole game is available when you buy the regular edition. Okay, and finally, the last point I want to touch upon is that despite having an offline mode, Black Flag Resynced was unplayable when Ubisoft Connect went down. We're gonna go over this Eurogamer article because it explains it pretty well. Over the weekend, the DRM and social-related layer of the game, Ubisoft Connect, suffered an outage, knocking the game offline on PC. Like all modern games from the French publisher, Resynced relies on Ubisoft Connect to function. This is true on all platforms, but the interface has more power on PC as it acts as a DRM layer on top of its existing functions. Upon purchasing a Ubisoft game, this is true for any game from the developer, a one-time internet connection is required to authenticate the copy, which is done through Ubisoft Connect. This should, in theory, let you play offline until the game is reinstalled. Unfortunately, the Ubisoft Connect offline mode is known to be spotty, yes, and by the way, this was also a problem in the original release, although at the time it was called Uplay, but it's the same deal. And that was demonstrated again over the weekend when the servers went offline. The outage appears to have lasted about an hour, but the problem is that it took the offline capability along with it, which is obviously not how an offline mode should work. Upon realizing they were able to play Black Flag Resynced offline, players rushed to the Steam forums, Reddit. Many in the comments also related having similar experiences with other games using Ubisoft Connect. Ubisoft has not made any statement, at least as the point of this article. Okay, and this is the part that I'm going to completely pull out of my ass. This is simply what I think could happen, and please correct me in the comments if you have more knowledge about this. You see, if the offline mode works as an offline mode should, the moment you set it to offline, it shouldn't have any more connection to the servers, either through Steam or the Ubisoft Connect. Yes, you lose access to the store, the Animus Hub bullshit, and the stupid screenshot sharing feature that they have added to the game, which honestly, I find it more annoying than interesting because it just fills my map with more icons. So I don't particularly enjoy it. But if you go offline, in theory, if the Ubisoft Connect goes down, it shouldn't affect it. How is it possible that if Ubisoft Connect goes down, people that have set the game to offline cannot play? And my theory is that it is always calling the server, as far as there is a connection. If your connection happens to go down, your internet goes out, or you disconnect your PC, or whatever it is, then it doesn't matter. It's simply, okay, sure, we don't have connection to send the call. However, if it's the server that goes down, which has happened in the past with many other games, then your PC that is connected to the internet keeps trying to call and can't, and then it simply denies access. Now, I don't think it's intentional in terms of, oh, we're going to make it this way, so even if they put it offline, if our servers go down, if we want to take the game down, they cannot play. I don't think it's intentional, but I think they just don't care. First, because this has been a problem for as long as Ubisoft has been making PC ports with online functions. And it still is in the latest game, and they just haven't bothered to fix it. In my opinion, it's simply that it's not fully working as intended, but because they don't give a shit. And they think, well, 90% of our players have connection pretty much at all times, so who gives a shit? And they just haven't bothered to actually fix it. But this is a pretty annoying deal, so you should keep it in mind that this is a situation that you could run into. Is the game worth it? On top of that, well, only you can answer that. Are they deal breakers? Well, what bothers me about this is that none of this changes the fact that the game is very, very good. With the microtransactions, you can just ignore the microtransactions. At least this time they are not, except for the stupid map, they are not so insane. And yes, at least they are not locking content of the game behind the paywall. I mean, it's not like Star Wars Outlaws that locked content behind the paywall. Who made that game again? If any of these are deal breakers to you, then you should probably not buy the game. But that is up to you. I'm just sharing my thoughts, and I trust that you can take that information and make your own decisions. I feel like Ubisoft cannot get a full W ever. They always find a way to muddy whatever they're doing, even if it's great. But even if you buy the game and you enjoy the game, that doesn't mean you cannot criticize these stupid-ass decisions. But I guess that's the present of gaming. If you want to enjoy something that is good, sometimes you have to go through it. So yeah, that is Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced. Like I said, overall, I love the game. I think is an improvement over the original. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Have you bought the game? Have you played it? Have you never played the original? Are you going to play this one? Are the microtransactions deal breakers to you? You can let me know whatever you want in the comments below. As always, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe to the channel as it really helps a lot. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.